So I'm Alex, and I'm on a sofa with Matt Jones today, who's standing for the position of Education here at the Students' Union. So just to begin with, Matt, just tell us a little bit about yourself. So what are you studying, and why are you standing to be the next Education Officer?
Cool, yeah. My name is Matt, as you just said. I'm currently a Master's Law student. It's my 4th year at Leicester. I did my undergrad here too. I am currently a postgraduate officer. I've been that for a few months now. I've been involved with the union almost since I first came to Leicester, firstly through activities and then more politically since I got postgrad officer. I just really like the way that the student union lets you do things which really help students. You're there to help them get value for money, make sure they're looked after, and ultimately make sure they're getting the best degree that they pay for.
Okay, so there's been a considerable decrease in voter turnout over the past year in regards to Union Council. So it actually went down 35% from 2013 to 2014.
Yeah.
So what makes you think that people will actually vote, and why should people care to be engaged in union politics?
Well, I think ultimately people should care to be engaged with the union because they pay for it. The union is funded by the block grant, but that comes out of the university's pocket, and you put your tuition fees into that pocket. So ultimately you're paying for it. The reason turnout went down, I think that depends partly on how hard candidates are campaigning. It depends on various factors to do with a few things. I'm confident that we'll get a good turnout. We've got a good marketing team in the union. They're pushing the elections nice and hard. Hopefully we'll get as many votes as we can.
Okay. So since the start of the election, there's been a decrease of 35% from the number of candidates, so from 20 to 13 in the number of candidates actually standing for the elections.
Yeah.
So what's your reaction to this, and why is it so? And do you think it indicates a lack of interest in union politics?
I think it indicates that the elections are actually quite hard. I think it's very easy to nominate yourself. It's very easy to fill in the form. It takes a lot of courage to do it, but it's quite easy to do the initial paperwork. Okay. Then the day after, when you get sort of 5 emails telling you that you need to come to this workshop and that workshop and do this and that, a lot of people, I think, step back and think, actually, this isn't for me, and they get a bit scared off. So that's the main reason why, I think.
Do you think it's maybe because of the certain candidates that are running that might be, slightly more equipped? Would you think like people are more intimidated by certain individuals? Or?
It's always going to be a factor. Last year when I ran, I dived in completely the deep end because I've been involved with the union, but not really with union politics, and it was very, very intimidating. But I stuck with it and I ran. I think some people get put off by it. I think a lot more people look at their other commitments. They see that it's going to take a massive strain on their course, their personal life, and they decide that maybe it's not for them. Maybe they're going to run a year after, or just stay involved for council or whatever.
Okay. So there are currently 14 sabbatical positions. Now, as you know, 5 have been contested this month. Now, do you not think there are too many positions, and surely this conflict of interest impedes effective union policy?
Well, I think it's important to distinguish that actually 5 of them are full-time sub positions, and the others are part-time ones. There's certainly a lot. It's important to remember that some of them are liberation officers, and obviously they look after a particular group. My role, for example, I'm there to represent postgrad students, and that means that I can focus solely on that. Obviously there's going to be an issue with communication in the large group. You're always going to get trouble with getting people all together in one place at the same time. But I do think it's quite important to have a big team, because it does mean that we can be really broad. We can make sure that we can get as many people involved as we can.
Yeah, so if you don't mind me asking, so what have you done as postgraduate officer?
Well, so far my biggest thing that I'm most proud of is setting up the Postgraduate Association. We had a postgrad event launched this month, still February. And we got over sort of 130 people down, so I was really proud of that. I've also just been really proud to be speaking to postgrads and actually saying, look, for the first time we're really pushing postgrads hard.
So you definitely value the role then? You think it should be kept?
Oh, definitely. I think it's a really key role, yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to chat a little bit about education now.
Cool.
So it generally goes like, if there is like a handful of core textbooks in the library, and say like some students have taken them out, you either have to buy the book or make do without. Now, hidden course costs are one of the biggest issues facing students on campus. So how do you plan to tackle this?
Well, I think the issue with textbooks, in an ideal world, you would get given all your books at the start of your course, but that is simply not going to happen. We're talking books which are worth about 50 quid.
Exactly.
One thing I think is really good is when the library do bulk buy offers, and at the start of the year they say to people, you can buy all the course books for a knockdown price, and that's really cool, and we should be encouraging that. I think the big thing is to try and get as many ebooks as we can, because then you're making them available to people who don't necessarily want to pay for the paper copy but are still able to study. One particular issue as a postgrad student is actually you sometimes find the core texts aren't even available as an ebook. So I definitely push university to get as many ebooks as they can.
Okay, so it's going to move on to your manifesto now. Cool. So What is your number one priority if elected?
I mean, my number one priority would be to be the best education officer I could be.
Policy terms.
In policy terms, I mean, I think it's really hard to single one out.
What jumps out?
I guess one which I'd push really hard straight away would be the text alerts, because I think that's something which you could get a real solid timescale.
Timetable changes.
Yeah. Get a contractor in, get something going where we can actually say, look, how can we do it? I mean, text alerts have been going at other unis for a lot longer.
Yeah.
Wolverhampton brought them in 10 years ago.
Wow.
So this is an area I think we could catch up on quite quickly. But I would push my manifesto across the board, because I think it's all important. I think it's quite holistic, if you like, and you want to push it all in one go.
So in your manifesto, you mentioned you want to introduce a printing allowance.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure you know it can be quite expensive on top of like living costs and tuition fees. Now how do you plan to fund this new printing allowance?
Well, I mean, that wouldn't come from union funding. That's something which I would lobby the university to introduce from their budget. It's not at all unheard of for unis to have a printing credit. The way that I would envisage it working would be a credit which is linked to the module, and then if you need to print out, say you need to do a 10-page essay for that module, we work out the amount you need to print, and that would be the allowance. I don't know the figures off the top of my head, but I believe DMU get £5 a term.
Okay.
I think that might be a fair amount, but I think it would depend on individual courses.
Okay. So given that you want to have all lectures recorded, now the current system of like lecture recording is like an opt-in system, so departments have to choose whether to opt in.
Yeah.
So how would you ensure that all lectures are recording given this system?
Well, what I've said is that I would love to see all lectures recorded. I don't think that's something we're ever going to achieve completely. I think if you look, sometimes you've got seminars with 4 people, maybe recording there would be more difficult. Okay. The way that I'd look to achieve it would be to talk to people that are currently not opting in and say, look, this is something which students want, and actually it's something which could benefit you as a lecturer. Because if you've got students who are missing out on a lecture, they're behind, and that's going to show through in seminars and tutorials. And if you put the lecture recordings online, then they're going to be able to catch up, they're going to be able, if they don't understand something, to go away and watch it again, and actually you're going to improve the quality of the education across the board and make it better for everyone.
Okay. So what are your plans to develop the course rep system?
Well, I think the course rep system is already quite good. I think it is good. It's not very well publicised, and that's the main thing. I think the course reps, certainly the ones that I've met, are really passionate about what they do, and they really want to help people.
Do you not feel it's dragging its heels a little bit?
In what sense?
So in the amount of students actually turning up to these meetings, and actually students actually knowing what their course reps are doing for them?
Well, that comes back to the publicising it. I think it's not as well publicised as it could be. Obviously, it's easy for me to say that I'll make every course rep turn up to every meeting, but these are people who are balancing it against their degree, and they're doing it for free in their own spare time. Potentially, I think publicising it more, maybe offering a bit more support from the union, just to sort of help them along and say that, look, we can help you out with things, and keep them more involved and make them feel that it's not too much work for them to do.
Okay, so I was going to ask you just one final question.
Yeah.
Now, students have the right to know whether their illness will affect their marks prior to their release. So what are your plans to improve the mitigating circumstances system?
Well, I think the issue that I've got, particularly with the system, as a student that's on an essay-based degree, this is something which I've actually faced personally. In the vast majority of departments, they no longer offer extensions. Basically, you have to submit your mitigating circumstances alongside your late essay, and then they will tell you whether they've been accepted.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a blue period, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, if you're not feeling very well, and say you're 3 days from a deadline, the last thing you want is the stress of wondering whether you're actually ill enough to get recognised.
Exactly. You don't really know, do you?
Exactly. I would love it if we could bring back some kind of extensions which might be done at a department level, where if people meet the right criteria, they can at least be told, yes, we will help you out, or no, we won't, you need to go and sort it out. Then it will at least make it a bit clearer.
In their minds.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Matt.
No problem at all. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.